Hey guys, my name is Francisco and today I'm going to share with you how I manage Japanese knotweed here in this community garden in Permaculture, Rhode Island. As you can see all around me, Japanese knotweed is very invasive. It really has colonized this whole garden, and we had to build our garden beds really on top of it, which means it creates a lot of extra work if you don't know how to manage it correctly. Essentially I use hand pruners. I get to kind of down to the crown level and I collect as much of it as I can. I put it in a bucket and then bring it to my compost pile. Couple of things. Most people, if you want to eradicate it or try to, it's pretty much impossible at this point. You want to just pull it from the ground. You don't want to cut it as like I did. You want to pull the whole roots and stem. However, I've been able to compost Japanese knotweed for the last 4 years without having any issues with it regrowing, sprouting in my compost pile. And this is what I've noticed that I want to share with you. I do not harvest knotweed for my compost pile anytime after July 15th usually. So I want to collect the stuff right when it's still very tender, so that I can add it to my compost pile when it's still fresh. Because what happens is, as it gets later in the season, especially once it's ready to bloom, the stems are really hard and all the growth points are already fully formed. So if you throw that in a compost pile, it's just going to grow. It's going to grow very vigorously even if it doesn't get sunlight. The other thing is, by really harvesting most of the fresh knotweed at the beginning of the summer, you're going to allow the heat of the summer to help you heat up that compost pile, which is going to really fully cook all those tender shoots. So here you can see they're very tender, it's nothing thick. And then I use, I'm going to add it to my compost. So what I do here is I add dry leaves that I collect in the fall. When people put them outside, I got this mesh wire. It's like 50 feet roll, and I get like 10 of those composting barrels. It's really a good deal. It works wonderfully. And then essentially you're just going to compost it like you would do. You add a layer of brown material, you add your green material, and you add water. You want to make sure it's humid, and you keep it going. That's how I've been working with this stuff, and for the last 4 years I really haven't had any issues. 1 year I go late and I started harvesting Japanese knotweed right around August, and I did notice that there were some shoots sprouting. So immediately I learned my lesson. I pulled them out, but I realized that if I start doing this, if I compost the fresh shoots right at kind of late spring, early summer, I have zero sprouting challenges with this stuff, because you don't want this sprouting in your garden because it's very invasive as it is. As it is, I have to put cardboard on the walkways just to keep it under control. Another tip, these are brown leaves that I collect. Like I said, at the end of the autumn when people are raking the leaves and putting them in the garden, it's a great time to collect them. You save them over winter, you put them on top of your beds to keep them nice and warm under it, and you just build your compost pile with them. So it's a great deal, and again, I haven't had any issues with sprouting, and it actually produces really good fertilizer. Some of the best garlic that I've grown in this particular garden has been using Japanese knotweed. You can see I keep several barrels going throughout the season, but again, do not harvest the stuff when it's too late. And this is how I have been building this garden. All of my beds, I use the compost that I make with the Japanese knotweed, the dry leaves from the autumn. We have amazing harvests year after year. The level of productivity of these beds actually increases. The garlic is really good, and overall very successful approach working with this weed. Now I do want to make something very clear. If you do not have Japanese knotweed in your garden, please do not go out of your way to get it, because it's a real nightmare. And if you don't have it, you don't want it. The reason why I use it here is because it's already present in this particular garden, and it's really been a blessing because it's a great source of green manure. It doesn't have any pesticides, it doesn't have any seeds, I harvest it at the right time and it just works really well. But again, if you don't have it, please do not go out of your way to get it, because this is a very invasive weed that will take over your garden, and we need to stop it because it's actually doing a lot of ecological damage here in the Northeast. But if you happen to have tons of it, like I do in this particular site, this video hopefully will give you some ideas in terms of how to experiment with it, how to manage it, and actually how to use it from a permaculture perspective.